You like today's graphic tee? I love graphic tees. Most of the time, y'all are going to see me in a graphic tee in these videos. I don't like to get, settle down. I don't like to get super dressed up for these things. I will definitely throw on an eyebrow and maybe fill in that. I got a friggin' mark here from a bump that I didn't even scratch. Like, it just turned into a scar. It was crazy. I don't know. Whatever. But today's graphic tee. Respect the park. All right, let's get into it. Okay, y'all are gonna have to bear with me this morning. It is like 7:15 and I just woke up. I wanted to get this video out of the way before my kids woke up. And my son is actually already awake. My daughter is the one who will come in your room and wake you up and stare at you and yeah. So she's the one who will get you up out the bed. My son, however, is still in a crib, so he can't get himself up. He just lays there and plays with his toys. Anyway, if you're new here, I'm Sequoia with the Chase Street Renaissance, and I wanted to get this video out. I've been trying to get this video out for like 2 weeks now, but this video goes along with my previous video on testing and kind of thinking outside the box with some things. I'm in a lot of candle groups on Facebook, and one of the topics that came up was testing, to test with fragrance oil or without. Now, previously, I think my testing video was about testing different wicks with, waxes that don't necessarily coincide with that wax, or, waxes that aren't recommended for certain wicks. Maybe that wick will work with your wax. So this video was more so testing with or without fragrance oil. Now I'm going to tell you what I do and why, and then obviously you decide what works best for you. So when I test without fragrance oil initially. I was in a candle group and some people were saying that they felt like it was a complete waste of time. It could be. I personally don't see how that is so. So let's say we take a 10-ounce jar, we test it, we fill it up completely with wax. I'll even take it a step further, and we anchor down the wick. Because previously, I don't actually know if I talked about this, but there's 2 different testing styles when it comes to wick. You can actually get your glue or your wick sticker and anchor it down to the bottom of the jar, or you can cut some of the wick off, pour the wax into the vessel, poke a hole where you want your wick to be, and then test it like that. I personally don't like that method because I can never get the wick in there straight. I can never, it just, I tested. If you want to do a power burn, it's likely not going to work with that style of wick testing because your wick is not anchored. So eventually it will lean. So you're not even really getting an accurate reading because your wick's not anchored down. So, anyway, that's why I don't like to test with a loose wick. But in this particular situation, we were talking about testing with or without fragrance oil. So like I said, I test without fragrance oil first. And the reason I do that is, yes, your wick will vary with fragrance oil and without. With a smaller vessel and with a larger vessel, there's a lot of different variables when you're finding your wick that works. However, at least you have a starting point. If you test a wick without fragrance oil in a vessel and with wax without fragrance oil, you have kind of a starting point. Okay, this wick works with this wax, and it also will give me a full melt pool with this vessel. Now, at least I have a baseline. I know how my wax behaves. I know how my wick behaves. I know how hot this vessel is going to get, at least right now. Then at least you have, okay, well, this jar, for instance, I do not know the diameter of this jar. It's double wicked, so it's at least 3 inches, probably a little bit more. But I double wicked this with 2 Eco 1s. Now, I did test this without fragrance oil. There's fragrance oil in it now. I'm preparing for my my Valentine's Day gift boxes. It does have fragrance oil in it now, and I did use 2 Eco 1s. However, the 2 Eco 1s still worked with the fragrance oil. And that's because I had my baseline testing it without fragrance oil. So essentially, you want to be able to waste the least amount of product as possible. You want to waste the least amount of wax, the least amount of wicks, and the least amount of fragrance oil. And then you pick your battles. What are you comfortable with wasting more of? Are you more comfortable with wasting fragrance oil that you may have bought from the Wooden Wick Co. and their fragrance oils are between 28 and 60 some odd dollars for, 16-ounce bottles of fragrance oil? Are you more comfortable with wasting that? Or are you more comfortable with wasting maybe 8 or 9 ounces, or maybe less if you're doing a half jar test, if you're only filling your jar up halfway with wax? Are you more comfortable with wasting 4 ounces of wax as opposed to, your $64 fragrance oil that you bought from the Wooden Wick Co. So it's kind of like pick your battles, right? So that's how I do it. Also, just like I said, keep in mind that your wick is going to behave different with your fragrance oils. I also pay attention to the consistency of my fragrance oils when I pour. Like I said in a previous video, I have a blueberry cobbler. I think it's a blueberry cobbler fragrance oil from, Lone Star, I think it's from. And it is on the thicker side. So some of those thicker fragrance oils, I assume, could clog your wick. And that's a variable that you have to kind of work around. Some of these thinner fragrance oils, like pomegranate bitters from Candle Science, this is one of those really watery fragrance oils. God, this smells amazing. Oh man, I love it. But just really paying attention to your, I know there's math and there's, wick sizes and things like that, but really, really think outside of the box when you're making candles. Use kind of your discretion and your better judgment when it comes to your testing. When it comes to your wicks, your fragrance oils, the thickness of your fragrance oils. I'm a firm believer in all of those things matter, and they matter more so than people talk about, at least more so than I've seen people talk about. I can definitely use less. I use 10% in everything. When I use my 6006, which is my paraffin soy wax, or when I use my cocoa apricot, I use 10% in everything. Now, I have seen people say less is more in cocoa apricot. I used, what is that? Oh, dropped something. I used birch and black pepper from the Flaming Candle, which is an amazingly strong fragrance oil. It's a manly scent. I love it. It's got a little bit of a spice there at the end, black pepper, but it is a very strong scent. I made my wax melts. As you guys know, if you've seen any of my previous videos, my wax melts, my sample melts, which these are 1 ounce, and I don't remember the amount of fragrance oil that goes in these 1 ounce wax, but I still did 10%. Oh my God, I walked into my house with that testing and it was everywhere. It was through the halls. It was in my bedroom. It was strong. Now, of course, that was in, I think my wax melts are a Pro Blend 650, which is also a paraffin soy blend with my wax melts. I haven't switched over the type of wax I'm using in my wax melts yet. However, that's a really strong fragrance oil, and I used 10%. I used 8% in my cocoa apricot, and it was, in my opinion, a little weak. And it might be fine for other people, and I have to keep in mind that everybody's nose is different. Everybody smells things differently. But it is a bit weak, in my opinion. So, like I said, use your better judgment when it comes to your fragrance oils. You can most certainly use less of a certain oil. I think in those instances, you can use less of a certain fragrance oil when your fragrance oil is a little thicker. That's what I found. The blueberry cobbler fragrance oil is pretty thick. I can definitely use an 8% in one of my candles. And I believe, let me see. I believe, bro, I use 10%. Now this is from my purple collection, which you can find on my Etsy shop. This is from my purple collection, and I did use 10% in this. And this is my cocoa apricot, and it is strong. It's super strong. I had a friend that actually bought this for me. I brought this from me, and she left a review, and she actually said it was strong, but not too strong. But I think that we have similar noses. But so absolutely use your better judgment when it comes to your testing. Like I said, I don't like to test without the wick anchored down. I like to waste my least amount of supplies and what I can spare the most. I can spare more wax than I can spare fragrance oil. If I buy an 8-ounce an 8-ounce bottle of fragrance oil, and I receive it and I love the smell, and then I make a candle and I love the smell, but I've made 4 candles because I'm trying to figure out what wick I'm testing. Well, now I've used all 8 ounces of that fragrance oil in just testing. When initially I could have at least started the testing phase, figured out what wick worked best with my wax, without using fragrance oil, and then had a baseline. Okay, I know that in this jar I can use 2 CDN2s and it works fine. Well, the flame was pretty small, and now I'm adding a fragrance oil that seems a bit thick. I'll probably need to wick up. So now I go to my 2 CDN3s. So do you kind of see what I mean? You know, write your stuff down. Definitely think outside the box when it comes to some of this stuff, and kind of use a little bit of candle common sense. So for the most part, that is the end of the video. That's mainly what I wanted to get out. I get so many good topics from being in these candle groups. Definitely find a candle group to go in. It'll keep you laughing. It'll surprise you. I actually just ordered a package of wick snuffers flame snuffers. I don't know, those little snuffer things that put the flame out. I think I feel like I'm saying it wrong. I don't know. But I just ordered a case of 36 of those, and I found them from one of my candle groups. And with shipping, I only spent about $50. So those are going to go in my Valentine's Day gift boxes, which are going to be available next Saturday, I believe. I don't know what date that is, but next Saturday they're going to be available. They're going to be up on my Etsy shop. So I'll leave the link down below for my Etsy shop if you guys are interested in checking that out. And then find me on Facebook and Instagram. I will also leave those links down below. And I really hope that you're enjoying these videos so far. I hope that I'm not going against the grain so much, but that's just me. That's just my personality anyway. I like to think outside the box when it comes to all things, and really just kind of get my own flow from start to finish. I want it to be 100% me when it comes to buying my supplies, testing my candles, and getting them out. So I do get a lot of ideas from these candle groups, and I try to flip them and make them my own in some form or fashion. But when it comes to the testing phase, I love thinking outside the box. You find so much more information that you can potentially give to someone else when you do that. So hopefully that makes sense. It's perfectly fine to test your candles with fragrance oil right from the beginning, right from the start, if that's what you're more comfortable with doing. But I found a lot of success with testing without fragrance oil first, and then adding my fragrance oil and going from there. And I generally, a lot of the times, the wicks that will work without your fragrance oil will work with your fragrance oil. And I found that I would only need to wick up or down 1. So instead of wasting 4 jars worth of wax, wick, and fragrance oil, I'm maybe wasting 2 or 3. You know, even if it's 1 less, it's better than 4. So like, comment, and subscribe. Tell me how I'm doing. You guys have been reaching out. My channel is still very small, but I'm having a lot of fun. So keep the questions coming, and I'll try to help in the best way that I know how. Thanks. I'll see you guys next time.